adaptation on YouTube. Talk about old stories meeting new tech.
Yeah, it's fascinating how this ancient text is finding new life in the digital age.
Yeah.
But even more intriguing is this story's enduring power to resonate, I think, across cultures and millennia.
Right. I mean, why else would we still be talking about this guy, Job, thousands of years later?
Right.
There's something about his journey that speaks to the human experience in a profound way.
Absolutely. To understand why, we need to first understand Job's world. Imagine, if you will, the land of Uz. This isn't some desolate wasteland, it's a place of abundance, and Job is at the pinnacle of it all.
Okay, paint us a picture here. What does a blessed life look like in ancient Uz?
Think 7 sons, 3 daughters, flocks of sheep and camels so vast they'd make a modern rancher drool. We're talking wealth, family, health, complete package.
Yeah.
Job, as they say, had it all.
So he's basically won the ancient world's lottery of life.
Exactly. But here's where the story takes its first intriguing turn. It's not just random misfortune that befalls Job. It's a cosmic test orchestrated by God himself.
Wait, God's involved from the get-go? That's not your typical bad things happen scenario?
Not at all. You see, in this story, God's having a conversation with Satan. Now, it's important to remember that Satan's role in the Hebrew Bible is a bit different from later interpretations.
Yeah.
He's not necessarily the embodiment of evil, but more like a prosecutor, a skeptic, who challenges God's view of humanity.
So Satan's like, oh, Job's only righteous because he's got it good. Take it all the way and he'll be singing a different tune.
Precisely. It's a test of faith, a wager on the true nature of Job's righteousness. And God, surprisingly enough, allows the test to proceed.
That's a bold move. But I have a feeling this is where things take a turn for the worse for our friend Job.
And it's not just one misfortune. It's like this domino effect of calamities. Like imagine, losing your livestock to raiders, then your sheep to a firestorm. Now picture your camels just vanishing, your livelihood just decimated.
Oh, man.
And just when you think it can't get any worse.
Yeah, this is the part where Job's story becomes almost unbearable to hear.
His children, gathered together for a feast, are killed when a house collapses. It's a brutal, visceral depiction of loss that the AI film does not shy away from.
It's hard to even fathom that level of grief, to lose everything you hold dear in such a short span of time. You have to wonder, how would you even begin to process that? What would your reaction be?
It's a question that lies at the heart of Job's story. And what's remarkable is his initial response. In the face of this unimaginable loss, he doesn't curse God, he doesn't lash out. He says, and I'm paraphrasing here, God gave and God has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord.
Wow. That's some next level acceptance.
Yeah. It speaks to the depth of Job's faith, wouldn't you say? But as you might expect, that initial piety is tested as the weight of his suffering truly sets in.
Because let's be real, maintaining that kind of faith when life throws its worst at you, that's not humanly possible.
And that's precisely what makes Job's story so relatable. He's not a robot programmed for unwavering faith. He's a man grappling with doubt, with anger, with the sheer unfairness of it all. He questions God, he laments his own existence, he even wishes he had never been born. Have you ever felt that way when pain makes you question everything?
I think we've all been there at some point or another, but Job's not even given the space to grieve privately. Enter the friends.
Ah, yes. The well-meaning, but ultimately misguided friends. Initially, they do what good friends should do. They sit with him in silence, offering comfort through their presence.
But that's not where it ends, is it? There's a reason this part of the story always stuck with me.
Their empathy takes a turn. They begin to imply that Job's suffering must be his own fault. Surely, they argue, God wouldn't allow such suffering unless there was a reason, unless Job had secretly sinned and incurred divine wrath.
It's the classic blame the victim response, and it's something that unfortunately still happens today. It's easier to find fault in the sufferer than to sit with the uncomfortable reality that sometimes bad things happen to good people.
Exactly. And this is where Job's struggle becomes even more complex. He's not just wrestling with his own pain and doubt. He's forced to defend his integrity against the accusations of his supposed comforters.
So Job's caught in this whirlwind of despair, abandoned by those he thought were there to support him. And then, just when you think the story can't get any heavier, God himself enters the picture.
And it's not the kind of entrance you might expect.
All right.
God doesn't swoop down to offer comfort or explain away Job's suffering. Instead, he challenges Job with a series of questions.
Questions. Okay, so not exactly a warm and fuzzy heart-to-heart then.
Not quite. These are questions that shake Job to his core. Questions about the very foundations of creation, about the limits of human understanding. Imagine being asked, "Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth?"
I don't know about you, but I wouldn't even know where to begin with that one. It's like, how do you answer a question that vast?
You see, that's precisely the point. God's not looking for a right answer. He's trying to shift Job's perspective. He's pushing Job and us, the listeners, to acknowledge the mystery of God's ways, the immensity of creation, and our own limited place within it all.
So it's less about God justifying his actions and more about Job, and by extension, us, confronting the vastness of existence, the things we can never fully grasp.
Exactly. It's a humbling experience,
Yeah.
to say the least, and it leads to a profound shift in Job. He doesn't necessarily agree with God, but he acknowledges the limits of his own understanding. He comes to a place of surrender and acceptance.
And what happens to Job after this divine encounter? Does he get some kind of cosmic do-over?
Well, the AI film we're exploring depicts that classic happy ending. Job's wealth is doubled, he's blessed with new children, he lives a long life. It's as if the universe is trying to compensate him for the unimaginable suffering he endured.
I don't know, that ending always felt a bit unsatisfying to me. It's like, can you really put a price tag on that kind of loss? Can a material blessings truly erase the pain of what Job went through?
It's a question worth pondering,
Hmm.
and I think it speaks to the enduring power of Job's story. It's not a neat and tidy parable with a simple moral. It's a raw, unflinching exploration of faith, suffering, and the mystery of God's presence in the midst of it all.
So where does that leave us? If there's no easy answer, no tidy takeaway, what are we supposed to glean from Job's story?
Perhaps the true triumph of Job isn't his material restoration, but his spiritual transformation. He emerges from the depths of despair with a deeper understanding of his own limitations and the unfathomable nature of God. His story reminds us that even in the face of unimaginable suffering, even when we question everything, there's still room for faith, for growth, and for a glimmer of hope.
It's a story that stays with you, that makes you think about your own life, your own struggles, and it leaves you with more questions than answers, which, in a way, might be the whole point. So if you were standing in Joe's sandals face to face with the divine, what questions would you ask? What mysteries would you seek to unravel? That's something to chew on long after this deep dive is over.